Strickland versus Hernandez was yesterday. I'm going to recap every fight and how my picks went. Carly Judas, Juliana Miller. This fight was pretty good. It started off the card pretty well. Miller got the takedown early on Judas, but she couldn't keep her down. She did make a couple mistakes on the ground, leading Judas to get up. Started taking over on the feet, pieced up Miller, landed some pretty good shots on her to end the first round. Second round, started to take over even more. Her striking just kept coming together. Her combos were really good. Overall, Miller started to gas. Like I said, she fades so hard after the second round. She did put up a pretty good fight, but she did get pieced up for the last two rounds, and she lost, in my opinion, 30-27, but I think a judge did have it 29-28. Jordan Leavitt, Yadir Del Fraud Valley. I am fucking speechless for this fight. It's kind of amazes me how, you look like a solid prospect and then you lose to such a one-dimensional fighter in Jordan Leavitt. He was doing some weird-ass things with his hand. He just kept his hands right out, like he was going to touch both gloves, but he just kept Yadir at distance. And with the striking, Yadir couldn't do much with striking. He landed a couple good shots, but then he would just get taken down and just held there. But also he did, you got pretty much how this fight went. Yadir didn't do anything really. He landed a couple good shots on the feet, but overall just got out-wrestled for about 3 rounds. Late in the third round, with about a minute left, I believe, he got a top mount and just didn't do anything with it. Jordan just kept the body lock on him, and then just held him there. Valley just kind of coasted to the decision and didn't really seem like he was trying at all, because he just didn't want to punch him in the face. He just let Jordan keep the body lock on him, hold him there, and just didn't do what he had to do to finish the fight. And overall, just you got fraud checked at the end of the day. Like, it's kind of crazy when you lose to Jordan Leavitt, the most one-dimensional fighter I've ever seen. No offense to him or anything, but I think he needs to actually strike more, and then he could actually be a more complete fighter. But Yadir's a fraud. Yadir's a fraud. Nothing else to be said. He sucks. Phil Rowe, Jean Paul. Phil Rowe, I did have Phil Rowe in this fight. I did think he was gonna be the vet, being a little more active than he usually is, but I was mistaken, and I shouldn't have listened to myself when I said that, because Jean Paul beat him up for 2 rounds. I think he got some solid takedowns on him, but overall it was just piecing him up on the feet. Phil Rowe didn't let his hands go. He just overall looked pretty shit. Didn't do what he needed to do. Overall, just sucked in my opinion. He did leave it all out there in the last 10 seconds, even though his corner, leading into the third round, his corner said you need to let it all go. And he did the same thing like he did in the first 2 rounds, just standing there, barely throwing combos, just pumping his jab. Jean Paul, though, he does look pretty solid, but his striking defense is horrible. He was getting not pieced up, but he was getting tagged pretty good, and I do think he needs to improve on that if he is going to be a solid contender in the division, because overall he will get pieced up by a better, more active striker who's throwing 3 to 4 punches every 20 seconds. But he did look pretty solid with his striking, his wrestling. Overall looked pretty solid, but he needs to work on that striking defense, because if he doesn't, he is going to get knocked out. Ramiz Soriano. This fight, I had Ramiz. I did think Ramiz won that. I did think he won the third round, in my opinion, because he did have the submission attempts, but also Soriano, I guess, was in the dominant position. I don't know. I think Ramiz won that fight. I think he won the first round and the third round. I believe the judges had it round 1 to Ramiz, the other 2 rounds to Soriano. I think round 2 was close, but it definitely was Soriano's round. It was 1-1 going into the third round. I did think Ramiz didn't do enough to win the fight, but I'm not mad about the decision. Good to see Soriano striking a little bit more, but he is pretty boring. I do think Extreme Couture turns fighters into boring fighters. I do think they kind of ruin them in a sense of that, just because they turn them into boring fighters. But overall, solid fight. No, not solid fight. This fight was kind of shit, boring as shit, especially after 3 decisions before this fight. You go out there, Ramirez is the only one trying to finish him. Soriano's not really trying to finish him. He's just trying to coast to a decision point fight. I think Soriano needs another tune-up fight at least. Try to get another finish. Maybe get his confidence back up or something. But I just don't think Soriano's going to keep winning if he keeps fighting this way. Because Ramirez was even out wrestling him at points. And it was a lot of just clinch work on the fence. It was just very boring. Jocelyn and Nora. Jocelyn outclassed Nora in my opinion. I knew Jocelyn would have been way better than Nora because Nora she looked really good at the start of her career, but now she just looks pretty shit. I don't think she's that good. She uses hammer fists when she's striking, and she's a kickboxing world champ. So I feel like that kind of explains itself. I don't think in MMA hammer fists are going to work like that. And if you're going for hammer fists in MMA and you're a kickboxing world champ and you're doing that, I don't know. I don't know if you know something I don't, but why would you go for hammer fists on the feet? And her striking just looks pretty shit in my opinion. It's gone downhill since she started in the UFC. At the start, she looked like a very crisp kickboxer, but now it's like she's going towards the MMA style and she's just throwing random strikes. Looks like she doesn't know what she's doing. But Jocelyn outclassed her, slammed her on her shoulder. I think popped out of place. The fight should have been called a little earlier because Edwards did knock her out. Her face was on the canvas, but then doesn't call the fight, and then she gets subbed. I would have liked to see Jocelyn got the KO there, just due to keeping her KO streak alive, but a finish is a finish. Coria went out there, dominated him 30-27. Overall, just looked like the way better fighter. Definitely was a layup fight in my opinion. Build up his record a little bit in the UFC. He does train with Joshua Van. He trained there 7 years before Van did. He was trained in Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu there. And he is Joshua Van's main sparring partner, so we won't see that matchup in the future unless they switch gyms. But overall, Lewis needs to be cut. He sucks. His best win would be probably Dana White's Contender Series. He does have one win in the UFC, but overall he is not UFC talent in my opinion. Maybe he needs more time to develop a little bit, but overall he isn't active enough. He doesn't strike enough. He pushes the same pace the whole fight, which is good, but he doesn't throw enough punches to have a good pace. It's kind of a very lackluster pace he puts on. Osborne, we got Alibi. Pretty simple fight. It was not the most entertaining. Alibi landed some good strikes. Odie couldn't really hang out with Alibi just due to Odie can't defend takedowns. I swear, I think he had Aljo in his corner and had a whole bunch of guys in his corner, and he still lost. Like, if you're training with guys like Aljo and your wrestling hasn't improved and you're just getting single-legged every time, I don't know, man. I think he's cooked. He can fight strikers. I think he only needs to be matched up against strikers, but even then, I think the strikers will go for takedowns. Overall, Odie needs to either move up to bantamweight, then he might have a little bit more of a chance, because I think him and flyweight against shorter guys, they have a lower center of gravity, so it's easier for them to get the takedown on a big, taller guy, unless it's just Odie's that bad. But overall, Odie has some good striking, but Alibi just outclassed him. I think it was a 30-27, 29-28. I probably would have leaned more 29-28, but at the same time, Odie did put up a decent fight, but Alibi just pretty much outclassed him. Chidi, Carlos Leal. I don't know what the judges were smoking on this one. Leal definitely did win this fight 2-1. The significant strikes did kind of mess up my scoring, because I looked at him and it looked way closer than it looked. Because Carlos Leal, since the bell rung, was walking down Chidi the whole time. Chidi was finding a lot of success with his kicks. He'd go inside kick, outside, right to the body. He's doing that a lot of teeps. He wasn't striking too much though, at least with his hands. A lot of kicks, barely any strikes with his hands. He wasn't giving the jab or a cross or nothing. It was more just kicks. Liel did outstrike him pretty much 3-1 at some point, but significant strikes wise, it was very close. But I think overall strikes, it would have went to Carlos Liel like 2-1 or 3-1, because he put it on Chidi from the bell, just walking him down, at least 3 to 4 punch combos almost every time, backing him up. Chidi didn't circle a lot of the time, which I was surprised. He didn't use his movement at all. He would let Carlos back him up, kind of just stay there. But I do think he did win round 2. Liel did win round 1 and 3. I do think the judges were wrong with their card, because it was a split decision. It was 29-28 Liel, 29-28 Chidi, and then I think it was a 30-27 for Carlos Liel on the last scorecard, which I do think that probably would have been the most appropriate scorecard. But at the same time, I'd have to rewatch the fight, see how that second round went, because it did come down to that. But Chidi did not win that fight. I do think Carlos Liel did dominate him a little bit. But Chidi did find success in this fight. Especially being 37 years old, I think he could hang around for another year, get a couple, 2-3 more fights, earn a little bit more money in the sport, and maybe switch to something else with MMA related. Zach Reese, Michel Pereira. I didn't fully watch this fight. I did think Zach Reese was going to pull off the split decision, in my opinion, because how does Michel Pereira win a decision, But overall, I can't comment too much about this fight, just due to I didn't really watch the full thing. I was a little busy. But Michel Pereira is Jewish, so do what you want with that information. But Zach Reese does need to beat these type of opponents if he is going to propel his career a little bit more. Michel Pereira, I think he does need to keep going on this the way he is. He did put up a solid performance from what I've seen, but overall he does need to improve, because he is only getting older, and I do think he is getting up there in age. He is not getting up there in age. He's 32, but he looks like he's 40. He fights like he's 38. I do think he needs to propel his career a little bit more by beating another opponent like a Zach Reese type of guy, another up-and-coming prospect, because overall, if he keeps fighting these younger guys like Kyle Dawkins or anybody who has solid power, has that knockout ability, and overall solid prospect, unlike Zach Reese is a very unreliable prospect in my opinion. But if Michel Pereira starts fighting these killers, he is going to get smoked, and he probably will get cut from the UFC at some point. But overall, Zach Reese can bounce back easily from this fight, just due to it being a split decision. I don't think a split decision loss really diminishes your record that much. I do think it does suck to lose a split decision, but overall, it's not going to do much for your. It's not going to do too much to your career, because the fight could have went either way, and the UFC definitely will thank him and give him a nice. And the UFC will give him another fight soon, probably. I don't think he took a little bit of damage, but he should be cleared within the next couple months. Get a fight probably by September, and then get back to where he was. Maybe get a finish, but I don't think he's going to get a finish. I think he might even lose to his next opponent, but we'll have to see who he fights. Jacoby Smith versus Josiah. I had money on Jacoby Smith on my bigger money parlay. Josiah, I just had $5 on him just in case if he won. He was almost a 3-1 underdog. So I've seen it before. Ethan Ewing beat Wellmaker, one of my favorite prospects. Beat him. So you never know what can happen, especially on a short notice. Jacoby Smith, though, absolutely killed him. I think it did go to the second round. I didn't see the first round, but I tuned back in as soon as he knocked him out, and I found that pretty funny, because I was worried about this fight, and I shouldn't have been. But I definitely got to rewatch this fight, but unfortunately had to work. But overall, I was hearing it's a pretty good fight. Jacoby Smith, always a good time when Jacoby Smith wins. Such a solid prospect. He always brings it, even if it's on the ground, if it's on the feet. He's always very quick with getting to your back or trying to get that KO. Josiah, though, I do think he does need to bounce back win. I do think the UFC will give him a nice fight, especially for filling on short notice. And he is going to get another fight probably within the year due to him being cut from the UFC at one point due to a brain disease. And then I think the UFC will take care of him with a nice, easy fight for him in his next fight. Sergey the Blob Spivak, Ante. I apologize to Sergey. I didn't know you were like that. But he just, I don't know. I was amazed when I see it from Spivak. Just be able to tank those shots. His jab was working so well against Ante. Ante's a fraud. I've never seen a hyped fighter like that go out and lose. Actually, no, I have. Yadir Vali lost like that too. But it's crazy that, two very hyped prospects go out there and shit the bed. Ante needs to, he trains with Tom and all that, but doesn't seem like it if you suck that bad. I've never seen a fighter rely on their power so much, and when he doesn't get the knockout, it kind of exposes him. I don't think he is a high level fighter. If he can find the knockouts again, I do think he will be finding success again. But if you can't really put a guy out like Sergey or win a decision against Sergey, I think that is a bad look. Just due to Sergey's kind of on his way out. He is losing a lot recently, but he can pull out the win against an unexperienced prospect or contender. But overall, I gotta apologize to Spivak. I didn't know he was like that. I did know he was tough, but I didn't know he was that tough to take Ante's punches like that. But Ante is a fraud. He is on 2 losses now. Crazy, you lose back to back. First one was to Waldo, but now you lose to Spivak. Kind of crazy to me. I do think his confidence is probably going to be at an all-time low now, because his confidence was all huge, but now it's going to be at an all-time low due to being on back-to-back losses, maybe facing getting cut just due to the UFC in the heavyweight division loves to cut fighters for no reason. Ige and Costa. I love to see that KO on Ige, the spinning back kick right to the dome, knocked him out. Well, stunned him, and then he finished him off with a couple punches. A lot of people calling it an early stoppage or, way too early. No. Costa finished him. When you look back at the replay, he kicked him right by his eye. His eye was pretty much closed when he hit him there. When he hit him there, his eye was closed when Costa and Ige. Costa knocked out Ige with a spinning back kick. I knew Ige sucked, but I didn't know he sucked that bad. His career is going downhill. He is a solid fighter, but overall, I think he sucks. I hate him. Loses a pit bull because he doesn't do anything. Doesn't really do much in this Costa fight. Costa was sitting at range. Almost Michael Chandlered him. Kicked up, front kick, leg kicks, body kicks. Everything was landing. Ige couldn't do nothing. And then eventually, he tried to catch I believe he tried to either miss the spinning back kick or he tried to go for a takedown or something, and Costa just timed it right. Kicked him right in the eye. He fell down. Finished him out with some ground and pound. I think Costa's he's looking very dangerous right now. 6-fight win streak. Just beat Dan Ige, one of the toughest guys in that division, due to him not being finished in the UFC or in his career. I think all he needed was 5 minutes with Dan. I think if you make easy work like that of a guy like Dan Ige, a guy who's very tough and made his career out of being tough, then you could be a solid contender. I know he called out Diego Lopez. It'd be crazy to see Costa knocking out Diego Lopez or a guy like Steve Garcia, but Steve Garcia already murdered him. And then I think it'd be crazy to see Costa knock out Lopez, but will it happen? Probably not. Diego will probably knock him out unless Costa keeps that distance, pulls a vault, keeps his distance, makes Diego come to him, set up a shot. But I think Diego would probably kill him. Jeff Neal And Medic. What a KO by Medic. He laid out Neal. Probably one of the craziest KOs on this card. There wasn't a lot of KOs here, but overall, I do think it was a little better than Costa's, just due to the way he shut Neal's lights off. Hit him right on the side of the temple. Neal got knocked out instantly. Just flattened. I don't even think he needed to land any follow-up shots, but overall, Medic just did what Medic does. Went out there, got the first round KO. I did have Neal in this fight, just due to I thought Medic was going to be a little reckless. Neal was going to somehow catch him, but that's another bad judgment call on me, just due to me thinking a nice vet in the UFC would win, but I got to start picking the easy picks and not taking such risky picks. Strickland, Hernandez. Hey, only casuals chose Fluffy. Real talk. I was 100% right with my breakdown. Fluffy has very overrated wins. I don't think he's that good, especially with a guy like Strickland. You can't really get past his striking. You need to go for takedowns, and when Fluffy did go for a takedown, Sean stuffed it instantly. I think he went for another takedown before he got knocked out, and that's how you know he got desperate. Sean just pieced him up a little bit in that third round and TKO'd him. I did wish he kind of flatlined Fluffy a little bit. That would have been crazy to see. But Sean Strickland gets the win, got the TKO, went to the press conference, said some wild shit. Overall, this is how my picks went. I did Strickland decision. Didn't happen, but he got the KO, which is good for his career. I'm happy Strickland got the KO because hopefully maybe he might pick up some more finishes. Neal, that was a bad pick on my end. Costa, I did think he was going to edge out a decision, but I'll take a KO too. Ante sucks. Smith, decision. I thought, to be honest, Josiah, he was an undefeated prospect. I thought it was going to go to decision. You know, he'd just be real tough. Could take his power, but I'll still take the points with that. Reese, Cheaty, both bad picks on my end. Except Reese pick. I think Reese probably should have won that, but a lot of people I know said Reese won, and I did get robbed, so I'll take their word for it. Cheaty got smoked. Alibi, decision, easy. Corey, decision, easy. Edwards, decision. I don't know why I took Edwards' decision for some reason. She's been on a crazy streak with finishes, but it is a women's fight, so they usually go the distance, but unless it's Jocelyn Edwards, I guess she just be finishing everybody. Ramiz, Rowe, DeValle. I am speechless about those. Judas decision, that was another easy one. I know Miller's very tough, and Judas is very tough as well. She does try to pick up her opponents and go for the finish, but I knew since Miller's wrestling background, it wasn't gonna be a finish, just due to Judas's patient, and she started to gas at the end, but overall, solid card. But I'm looking forward to next week's card, Moreno versus Kavanaugh.